Oh, it's Petra predictions here.
These Asian World Cup qualifiers are lit. It's like every single match really makes a difference in the whole grand scheme of things. And of course, at the halfway point, my predictions have changed admittedly, but do check out my video of my initial predictions for this round 3 Asian World Cup qualifiers. Group A, I'm going to be changing my predictions as I genuinely see Iran and Uzbekistan qualifying directly for the World Cup, and then Qatar and UAE reaching the next playoff round. Iran, they've been really dominant actually, but what has surprised me a lot about Iran is just how well composed they've been in their games and how they can dig deep. Uzbekistan, no surprise there, but what has surprised me is considering how attacking they are, they're actually very wasteful in front of goal, not taking their opportunities clinically enough, and I think that could hinder them. Qatar, wow, they have really proven they are a very incoherent team. They lose leads very easily. They're below par at the moment, to be honest, and it really raises questions as to how they won 2 consecutive Asian Cups. Like, really, how? UAE, no real surprise there, kind of what I expected from them. Though North Korea have been incredibly competitive considering they're a pot 6 team. They've pushed every nation they've played. I think they have a real shot of reaching the playoff spot. Sorry, Kyrgyzstan, they have been the weakest team by far. But North Korea's loss to Kyrgyzstan could really have shaped, who reaches the playoff spots. And I do think Qatar and UAE, stretching the rest of the qualifiers, do have that bit more quality than North Korea. But it'll be really tight for the playoff spots. But I do think the direct spots with Iran and Uzbekistan is not going to be that competitive. I'm going to be changing my predictions again, as I do genuinely see South Korea and Jordan qualifying directly for the World Cup, and then Iraq and Oman reaching the next playoff round. This group has been a group of 2 halves with the top 3 teams and the bottom 3 teams, like the gap in the quality is quite clear, but it's still a really competitive group as all teams are taking points of each other, which is encouraging. But even with South Korea's slow start, you can still see them dominating. They're in the driving seat and they're winning games against their direct rivals, so to say, which kind of leaves that one direct spot between Jordan and Iraq. And I think they're pretty much very similar quality teams and they're both going to really be at it. But for me, when Jordan wins, they win in style. They put their games to bed and they're scoring a lot of goals. And our Naimat and Olwan's link-up play, their chemistry is fantastic to watch. And I think that'll really be the difference, is Jordan's just outscoring Iraq. But when Jordan don't have Al Tamari, when he's injured, it's quite clear they're a very different team, but they seem to manage okay without him. Whereas Iraq, I've been really surprised of how little Iraq are scoring. They're not as free flowing as we usually see Iraq, and they're not putting their games to bed. And I think this is what could really hinder them and them dropping down to that playoff next spot. Whereas Oman, yes, that comes as a bit of a surprise, but especially with Oman's slow start, the managerial change now, I feel like compared to Palestine and Kuwait, they will be getting the wins and the points they need against the lower 2 teams, against their direct rivals. Whereas I feel like Palestine, Kuwait, they're competitive, but will they be consistent enough and get the points against the teams they need to be getting the points against to reach that playoff round? I don't think so, and this is where I think Oman will show their consistency later on and just about reach that playoff spot. Group C, I'm actually going to be keeping the same predictions as previously, as it's quite clear that Japan are in a league of their own. They're really dominating this group, and with Grenade back managing Saudi Arabia, I think Saudi Arabia will be very attacking again, way more attacking than Popovic's parking the bus Australia side. And so those top 3 teams is quite clear, and the bottom 3 teams, Maaf, Indonesia, I know it comes across that I'm disregarding them. I'm not. They're a really competitive team, but the difference between Bahrain and Indonesia for me is that Bahrain will, and they know how to win and get points against their direct rivals, because really it's that one remaining playoff spot where the bottom three teams are competing for. And Indonesia and Bahrain have shown they both can challenge those top three teams in the group, but Indonesia's loss to China is significant, and I don't see Bahrain making these slip-ups like Indonesia. And you got to give credit to Indonesia as well. They're still really competitive. They came all the way from the original playoffs in these World Cup qualifiers and making it now. But they are just a bunch of random diasporas, really, that have somehow had to click. And I think this is by far not the peak of this team. Like, this team is still waiting to peak, and they're still a young team. So either way, this is excellent experience, and they still will be very competitive for the remainder of this qualifiers. And I think that last playoff spot will really come down to the wire. Apart from Group C, you can see my other predictions for the other groups have really changed, but hey, that's football. Football can be really unpredictable sometimes. But in terms of explanation, don't forget to check out my initial predictions for this Asian World Cup qualifiers round 3, as there's a lot mentioned there as well. And what do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Will there be any other surprises? Who will be dominated instead? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.